You stalk your prey, darting from rooftop to rooftop, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The noble sees the coin you laid as a trap, and as they bend down to pick it up, you pounce like a panther from the shadows. Hiding in 5e has always been a bit up in the air, with chunks that seem to be absent or parts that sound confusing. I know a good few people who were hoping that the 2024 rules would introduce clarity for them, but instead just felt more confused. In 2014, you made a stealth check and noted the check's total. That then became the DC for any active perception checks trying to find you. You can't hide from a creature that can clearly see you, and you give away your position if you make noise. When you actually make the check, there's a chance that someone could notice you without actively searching, in which case you compare your stealth check total against their passive perception. Finally, if you approach a creature in the middle of a fight, they usually see you unless your DM says otherwise. In 2024, they did clarify a few things and tuned up a few bits. When you take the hide action, you must either be heavily obscured or behind at least 3/4 cover, and not in any enemy's line of sight. You then make a DC 15 stealth check, and on a success, you are hidden. While hidden, you are also invisible. You stop being hidden if you make a sound louder than a whisper, an enemy finds you, you make an attack roll, or you cast a spell with a verbal component. The main differences are stating that you must be obscured or behind cover, clarifying that you can make a low level of noise without being found, that you can't whisper the verbal components of a spell to stay hidden, and making it so that you can't roll a 9 and be hidden so long as no one is nearby to contest the check with their passive perception. But the big things I see people complaining about in the new 2024 rules are what it means for an enemy to find you, and that there is no longer a rule stipulation that you can't approach a creature while hidden. Although we do have sage advice, as of writing there is no clarification there on what it means for an enemy to find you. The only reference we have to it in the rules is the DC of the perception check required to find you being equal to your stealth check total. This has led some people to hyperbolically claim that you can hide around a corner, breakdance in front of the enemy, then stab them and still be hidden for the advantage. So in this video, I want to talk about how I view the new hiding rules and why I actually prefer it in 2024 over 2014. So, can you waltz out in front of the enemy and remain hidden in 2024? No, of course not. Because part of the conceit you make when you say you are hidden is that you're attempting to, well, hide. If you're playing a comedy-focused game, then absolutely go ahead and moonwalk up to a bad guy and stab them in the face. But you have to describe the results of rolls to fit the vibe your table is going for, right? So in more serious games, doing so would be stupid. However, I would argue that the idea of being able to walk across the battle map is inherently stupid is flawed. It relies on assuming the resulting description can only be humorous, but you can apply that exact same line of thinking to any roll a PC makes. You're telling me a guy in wolf pelts can lift boulders over their head? That someone wearing a robe can punch a giant so hard they stub their toe to death? These to me seem like obvious bad faith skewings of how the game plays. When your barbarian rolls their 25 athletics check to pick up a boulder, you can describe it so that it sounds silly, or you can focus on how their muscles ripple and their sinews scream at them, their joints burning from the strain, but despite the agony that racks through their body, they heave the colossal stone over their head as the ground beneath their feet cracks under the pressure. And I think a lot of 2024 5e encourages you to play the game with the latter thought process. 5.24e is absolutely unrealistic, but it isn't trying to be realistic. It's trying to be cinematic. So yes, I absolutely think that a rogue can move through a battlefield while remaining hidden, and that an enemy must make a perception check to find them. And I think this is only a problem if you make it one. Yes, the guard looking right at the rogue and saying, "Must have been the wind," because they fail their perception check is silly. But instead, you can use this as a chance to highlight the rogue's skill. Maybe they throw a stone to disturb a nearby nest of birds, then use the distraction to dart away unseen. Perhaps in the middle of combat they keep track of enemy line of sight and pick the perfect moments to duck and weave through their blind spots, or take advantage of tunnel vision. I think in general it's better to make failures not a sign of the roller's lack of skill, but the target's abundance of it. The party keeps rolling low to hit a kobold? You could describe a Benny Hill slapstick scene where the party fumble their weapons into their own backs. But for a more serious game, you could narratively turn this kobold into a more skilled combatant than the party were expecting. They aren't flailing helplessly, the kobold is dodging nimbly. It stops low rolls from being a chance to mock the character and instead raise the stakes. Again, this is not to decry light-hearted games where making fun of things is the aim of the game. In games like that, having characters fail in wild and wacky ways is offset by succeeding with equally bizarre and hilarious methods. I just find myself scratching my head whenever someone goes out of their way to imply that's the only possible way they can describe certain aspects of the game, and that makes these aspects bad. So in short, I think the game makes much more sense when you approach it under the lens of cinema, not reality. I believe that's the type of experience Wizards of the Coast are trying to capture, and hope that with this explanation the rule set starts to make a bit more sense. If you like the video, consider subscribing and leaving a like. It really helps this video in the dreaded algorithm. And if you want to write up on my spin of Titanic Monsters, a villain party that makes use of monsters with reviving traits, alternate lycanthropes, how to create a god, prepping combats to be scalable, how to convert between 2024 and 2014 monsters, and much more, please consider joining as a free member of our Patreon. You can even join my first two paid Patreons, who admittedly have been around for a while, Rob Monger and Brendy Poo. I'm so sorry if I pronounced that wrong. And please stick around. We're a newly formed TTRPG design duo looking to make DM tips videos and create resources to help DMs with running the game. This video was decided by a poll, so I thought why not do the same for my next video. So, the ideas that didn't win the last poll will be returning, which was talking about what we can learn from Powered by the Apocalypse games, and why I prefer D&D Next and 1D&D over 5e. Joining them will be Dinosaurs in 5e, a review of Droland's Dictionary of Dinosaurs.